The Backrooms have come a long way from one unsettling photo that was posted online. What started as a simple photo of endless yellow hallways evolved into the internet's most recognizable horror concepts, thousands of pages of lore, countless of fan theories, and Kane Pixels' massively successful YouTube series. After watching the Backrooms movie this weekend, I kept asking myself one question. Did this movie actually understand what made the Backrooms so scary in the first place? Today I'm comparing the movie to both the original Backrooms concept and even Kane Pixels' interpretation of the Backrooms. To see where it succeeds, to see where it falls short, and to see which version captures the real essence of the Backrooms as a whole. The original Backrooms was a photo that was posted on 4chan. It was an original 4chan image posted on the website. An endless hallway, an endless yellow hallway with these buzzing fluorescent lights. That original photo gave segue to all these different fan theories, thousands of fan theories, thousands of pages of lore, thousands of different inspirations that other people have created to complement the Backrooms, to add on to it, to build this universe around the Backrooms, all originated from this original yellow hallway photo that was posted to 4chan. When it comes to the original Backrooms, the original concept of the Backrooms is that you can no clip into the Backrooms at any point, no matter where you are. It could be, in your house, it could be at a subway late at night, it could be in a department store, it could be shopping during the day, it could be anywhere. The whole concept of no clipping through a wall and getting into the Backrooms was the fact that it could happen at any moment, at any time, to anyone, no matter where you are. And I think what made that so scary is the fact is when you no clipped out of reality, there was no going back. There was no possible way that you could clip back through the same entrance, the same wall, nothing. Once you no clipped out of reality, you were stuck. You were lost. There was no getting back. And I think that's what the original fear came from, and the original scariness of it originated from the fact that once it happens, you're done. Now, because that was the fear of no clipping out of reality and fully being isolated right off the get-go was the core fear of the Backrooms. So the core original Backrooms didn't have any monsters. It didn't need any monsters. It didn't need any creatures, any entities, any anomalies. It didn't need any of that. It just needed you to no clip and be stuck in these Backrooms, because the fear came from the isolation, the loneliness, the aspect of as you're transversing the Backrooms, you see things that are similar and feel like you've been there before, feel similar, but something's off. And because of that, you don't see any sign of life anywhere. There's no sign of life from any other thing. The true fear, the original fear that came from the Backrooms, was the fear of being alone, the fear of being in this place where there's no sign of life, no clip out of reality. And maybe when you're walking around the Backrooms, you're hoping, yes, you can't get out, but when you no clip out of the Backrooms, you're hoping that you come across other life. You're hoping you come across another person. You're hoping you come across something, life. An animal or or even remnants of a person, discarded food or left behind clothing items, or something lets you know that you're not there alone. But that's the thing. The original Backrooms purposely had no remnants of other individuals or other humans or other living life forms. And I think that's what made it so much scarier, is because not only did you no clip out and you couldn't get back to reality, it was the fact that you were totally alone. What made the original Backrooms so effective in this, it wasn't what was there in the original Backrooms, it's what wasn't there. There was no answers, there was no maps, and there was no guarantee of anyone else ever being there before. Now, when we look at Kane Pixels' interpretation of the Backrooms, we see that he adds a lot of different elements and factors that were not in the original Backrooms. Some people say he added on to it. Some people say that his versions are like the definitive, canon version. It's really up to your determination of what you view. Now, with that, he introduces async research, which is the scientists that are in the yellow jumpsuits, the hazmat suits, or even the green hazmat suits that are investigating the back rooms. They're tracking it, they're mapping it out, they're bringing cameras, they're bringing devices to measure stuff, they're bringing all the equipment inside the back rooms. That's what async research is. They're the scientists who are behind investigating the back rooms, trying to map it out, trying to learn more about it, trying to understand it, trying to figure out what the back rooms are. Now, with that, they are conducting scientific experiments by using some of their scientists in the hazmat as guinea pigs. Some of the head scientists aren't, you know, telling them that they're going to be used as guinea pigs, but they'll send certain ones on missions to areas that they are pretty sure are dangerous, but might not be fully documented due to not being able to have footage. So they'll send these guys in there with footage, alive footage, in a sense to sacrifice these scientists, these guys in hazmats, but to be able to retain that live footage back to further their research and their scientific experiments. Now, Kane's Pixels also expanded the mythology. He added entities, he added creatures, he added different concepts, like a pool area or like a maintenance boiler room area where there was piping everywhere, like an industrial area. With Kane Pixels' inspiration, he added and expanded greatly on the mythology. Some say for good, some say for worse. Now, along with these added mythology, he expanded within his YouTube series the found footage presentation videos. These found footage presentation videos engulfed pretty much like a camera view, like a POV, kind of like a paranormal activity kind of camera style video shooting format where they're following around these the hazmat guys and they're exploring different areas, different locations within the back rooms, different floors and levels. And a lot of these videos end in the same way of these scientists getting picked off by different entities or getting picked off by different environment issues that could be spawning in those areas. I think it was really cool how they did these videos because some of them were very interesting, especially the designs, how it transitioned from the yellow hazy hallway and then it completely changed to maybe like a pool room or like a area where there was like a giant cavity and like a giant slide. It was chaotic, but it was also very random, which is what the core Backrooms was meant to be. The reason why I see people considering Kane's Pixels as the definitive version is because he added onto it. He added more storytelling, he added more entities, he added more areas, he added more scenes, he added more levels, he added more concepts and different environments. But no matter how far you search, you're not able to find these signs of life. So you still have that fear of loneliness and isolation. That factor, it really drove home that elevated fear that Kane's Pixels inspirations was driving home and why people think that it's more the definitive version than the original. Now, when Kane's Pixels expanded the lore dramatically, he managed to preserve much of the mystery that made the Backrooms so compelling from the get-go. Now that's where the movie faces its biggest challenge. And now we come to the movie The Backrooms by A24. You start off with a furniture store business owner whose business is falling on hard times. When it comes to the story of the movie, it was a hit or miss, in my opinion. I think it was more of a miss because the original Backrooms was more about the eeriness and about the being isolated. The way the movie did its story was more of it showed the psychological decline of the store manager, of how he was going to therapy with his therapist, and during these sessions it also showed the therapist. It took a side of the therapist and it showed how she doesn't seem like she's really helping him. She doesn't seem like she's doing a good job. She seems there's something off about her. Now, what did the movie get right? What I think the movie got right, especially at the beginning, was that sense of isolation, that sense of fear of going into the back rooms, the no clipping aspect. You know, when he first gets into the back rooms, he no clips into his basement. He goes through a section of his wall and he no clips into it. Now, where it lost me was the fact that he was able to no clip back into reality in the same spot. Some of the confusing environments for me was when he was walking around and he came down certain hallways where there was a stop sign. He would rip the stop sign down, bring it back to reality, and it was in his basement. Those little things were confusing because the concept is stuff is no clipping out of reality. All the furniture was supposed to no clip out of reality. The stop sign was supposed to no clip randomly. But once he took it out of the back room and he was able to bring it back to reality, it should not respawn back into there, because if it no clipped from location A and he took it out and brought it back to reality, he did not bring it back to location A for it to no clip. So for it to respawn was a little weird. To keep the tension of the movie, I think it was needed for him to be able to go back and forth. And because of that, that brought the bigger tension of showing his psychological decline and how he was kind of going crazy, because he would bring that up to his therapist. His therapist was not having any of it, and she just was thinking he was drinking or losing more of a decline because he's currently or recently went through a divorce. So from her perspective, it was more of just a psychological decline at a rapid rate rather than him actually finding this crazy expansive, no clipping area, which rightfully so makes sense, because if you were a therapist hearing that story, you would think you're crazy too. Another thing the movie maybe fell short on was that feeling of endlessness. What I mean by that is the original Backrooms was meant to be an endless, yellow, dingy hallway with this fluorescent lights and just an endless going. It felt like it wasn't truly endless anymore. It felt like at the end, it all ended up back at like a replica of the furniture store. There was no exit, there was no way of getting back out, there was no other way or pathing to go. So I feel like because it locked a lot of areas and a lot of doors that could have been added to extra pathways that could have broadened the endless aspect, it made it more closed and more in a specific pathing, which I understand they had to do that for the movie because they were telling a story. They were trying to hint towards this end outcome that they had to kind of guide you towards. Another core concept that they changed was not just having regular entities, they also added these entities that were kind of like copies of the real world. Like they said in the movie, it's like describing a dog to someone who's never seen a dog and then asking them to draw said dog based on your description. There's going to be a lot of elements that are right, but then there'll be a lot of elements that are off and that change the whole concept of the thing they're drawing. At the end of the day, the Backrooms movie isn't trying to replace the original Backrooms concept or even replace Kane Pixels' interpretation of the Backrooms. It's just another interpretation that has evolved over the years across the internet. The real question is, does the Backrooms work better as an unexplained nightmare, as a detailed science experiment, as a detailed science fiction mystery, or as a traditional horror film? I think it would be better to stay as an unexplained nightmare, but I really enjoyed more of the detailed scientific mystery aspect that they did with the movie and what Kane Explorations does in his YouTube series with the scientists and the async researchers and all the hazmat guys walk around. I like that version better, where they added the entities, where they added the environmental issues. I like that aspect much better than just the endless fear. As we wrap this up, let me know down in the comments which version of the Backrooms you prefer. The original lore, Kane Pixels' interpretation of the lore, or the movie itself. Whichever it is, let me know and let's have a discussion down in the comments. Without further ado, I'll see you guys on the next one.